Hello ladies and gentlemen, Top Hat Gaming Man here, and I would like to welcome you all to watching one of the most exciting and fastest growing channels on the entirety of YouTube. Yeah! And a big factor contributing towards my constant rise is all of you lovely people who continue to tune in to all of my videos week in, week out. And I would like to give an ultra special thanks to all of my lovely patrons, who I also like to think of as my disciples. You lovely people follow me everywhere, and your contribution to this channel basically you give me a nice little ego boost, and due to that it just gives me a lot more motivation when creating videos. So yes, thank you for all of that, and it's lovely getting to know you all with your constant Q&A questions you send me. So in regard to these Q&As, if any of you at home want to get involved in this, just become one of my patrons. You can send me a monthly Q&A question for as little as a $1 a month donation. And obviously the more you donate, the more incentives you receive as well. So in a way it's not even a donation, is it, if there's incentives involved? Because equally I'm giving back to you. So by the donation you're probably getting more from me, so I've actually got the short end of the deal in all of this. Like, do you realise how many hours I put into making all these videos? I work a good 40 hours a week producing this content, and most of you watch it at home on your computers for free! Look at that, for bloody free! You're watching me for free, you're not contributing! So if you're not contributing, give me a bloody dollar! Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the questions, I will start off with a question from Mr. Hobnob Sandwich, who is one of my lovely $1 a month patrons. He asked me the fantastic question of, why are retro game collectors all bastards? And that got me thinking, actually. I can't really use the word bastards in a YouTube video description, because those bastards who run YouTube will end up demonetizing the video because it will just be in the title. So I will change your question slightly in the annotation to, why are retro game collectors so horrible? Well, game collectors are going to be horrible, aren't they? And the whole concept of collecting is a horrible thing to do. Like, if you're collecting stuff, you're clearly some greedy, narcissistic twat, aren't you? Why else would you need to accumulate so many things so no one else can have them, and you can just stick them on them shelves for no one to use, even yourself? You're just shelf collectors. They go for full sets, don't they? So they put games together all in a row, and then they never end up playing them. They just look at them every now and again and remind themselves of how much they wasted on a crap like £1,000 on bloody Beethoven on the Super Nintendo, or something stupid like that. Collectors, they're so weird, isn't it? Maybe we should feel sorry for them, I suppose, as well. Most of them probably suffer from problems like OCD, so they waste all of their money on pointless crap just from a compulsion. So they're literally buying that stuff from a compulsion. So it's either a compulsion, or they're just some narcissistic, greedy idiot. I personally don't like to think of myself as a game collector, as I've mentioned in videos previously. I rather like to think of myself as a game procurer, because I'm not one of those weirdos who goes for complete sets of stuff, who buy stuff for the compulsion of buying things. I literally only buy stuff I want. I buy games for two reasons. Firstly, the ones I really want to play and add to my collection, so I can go back, revisit them down the line and play them yet again, so I can continue to play them over and over. And the other, slightly weirder version why I started buying games and consoles is literally so I can review them on this channel and make a little bit of money by doing that. So I suppose I'm greedy too, in a way, because I'm making purchases just so I can review some. Maybe I am a greedy collector. Yes. Please donate to me $1 a month, yeah. Anyway, bloody Lenovo laptop. Let's get some more questions out. Question from Jack of All. What would you say is the best PS2 games? I really struggle to ease it to 25 games, and even some I still would miss. Yes, the PlayStation 2, we've discussed it many times before on this channel. It is a system with an absolutely huge library. It's more than just a DVD player, I suppose, even though that would be the primary reason I assume most people went for a PlayStation 2 was just to watch DVDs, because most people back then were too poor to be able to afford a DVD player and a console, so they just had to have one unit which did both. But yes, PlayStation 2, there is so many great games on it, but I'm going to go for something really typical for my favourite. I really like Final Fantasy X, probably the last really good Final Fantasy game, and even that's probably not as good as 6 or 7 or even 9, I suppose. So yes, thank you for that question, Jack of All. You really are the Jack of all trades when it comes to asking questions, yes. Question from Raymond Larrabee. I feel like you're in the midst of a price nadir for Wii games on eBay. Ah, nadir, lovely word there. So basically when he says nadir, he means like as in oil trading, as in a drop, so as in the dropping of Wii game prices. Do you think people are dumping them because of the Switch, or are they lesser known inexpensive Wii games are there any lesser known inexpensive Wii games you'd recommend? For the first half of your question, Wii games, you're right, they do appear to be dropping in price, I suppose. But I'll be honest, I've not been that vigilant regarding it, because I already picked up most of the Wii games I ever want a long time ago. The only game I'm missing from my collection of Wii games, which I'm really wanting, is the Fire Emblem game on the Wii. So if anybody wants to give that to me for free, then again, let me know in the comment section. That would be a lovely, most thoughtful gift. So yes, in regards to it, I think the Wii games are dropping off in price probably because it's 2 generations old now. It's always good to buy games from the previous generation and the generation before that. That's when you can get the best deals on games. At the moment, I am cleaning house with buying bloody loads of PlayStation Portable games and PlayStation Vita games I want, because at the moment I think they're probably at their the lowest those games will get in terms of value. I reckon soon they'll start shooting up. So that's my advice for you people out there who are game procurers such as myself. Buy PSP games, buy Vita games. What was the second half of your question? Are there any lesser known inexpensive Wii games you'd recommend? Yes, there is one extremely cheap, extremely amazing game which I've talked about on this channel before, but it was quite a long time ago. Little King Story. It's basically, I suppose, it's kind of a god game. You do a lot of building stuff, but it's also like Pikmin. It's kind of like a Pikmin game was not actually called Pikmin, and I think it's actually even better than all of the actual Pikmin games. So yes, Little King Story is my number one cheap Wii game I would recommend to all of you. Next question, a great question from Audrey Simpson. Audrey, are you a man or a woman? I'd be curious to know. Oh, am I even allowed to say man or woman anymore, or maybe you're gender fluid? I don't know. It's not up to me. So yes, if you could design a Top Hat Gaming Man game for the PlayStation 4, what would it be like? That's a really good question. As I said, if I had my own game, I would like to make handhelds around the world the game, and essentially it'd be a platform game where it features me going around the world procuring, because I like that word, different handheld gaming devices, and basically it would be based on the series on my channel. So for example, there'd be a level set in New York, and that's where I reviewed the Game Gear, so I would want the whole level in the graphical style of the Game Gear. I was in Greece when I reviewed the Game Boy, so I'd like that in the 8-bit monochrome Game Boy graphics. If there was a level in a cave, I would like to do it on the Microvision, and I'd like that to be primitive and almost unplayable. What else could I put in the game? What other handhelds have I done? Oh, I played the Neo Geo Pocket Color and the Wonder Swan, both when I was in Thailand, so maybe some nice shiny 32-bit levels. We're a bit pixelated obviously because they're handheld as well. So yes, that's my theme for a game. I think it's very unique and innovative. What do you think about it in the comments section? Next question, Matthew Porter. Do you work as a porter, Matthew Porter? That would be quite an interesting coincidence. Are you a hospital porter? Did you ever beat Bionic Commander? No. I remember there was a level with a large wall I could never get past. Follow-up question, are there any games that haunt you that you could never defeat? Yes, one very big one to be precise, and that would be Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, or in my country as we call it, Star Wing on the SNES. With a Z at the end of it, because I know some people hate it when I pronounce it like that, but that's what I would call it, and that's what I would always call it, regional dialect. So yes, I've forgotten. Yes, that answered your question. Don't know what I'm talking about. Next question from Brad Warren, a high rolling patron here. So thank you for your $20 a month donation. That's bloody fantastic. Such a nice man. I think more of you at home should aspire to be like young Brad Warren here. Anyway, getting on to his question. My question is two-pronged about the Virtual Console. What are your thoughts on buying virtual titles opposed to buying classic games in their original form? That's the first half of your question. What are your thoughts on buying virtual titles opposed to buying classic games in their original form? I will always go for the classic version in their original form. And I suppose the only time I will go for virtual console versions, I suppose, is basically sometimes I will, like for example, some really expensive PAL games like Mega Man 7 and Mega Man X3 on the Super Nintendo. It took me quite a while to procure those games. So what I did in the meantime, I bought Mega Man 7 and Mega Man X3 on the Wii U. And it also meant I could play it at the job I had at the time using the Wii gamepad, because you don't need a TV to play the Wii U, or the Switch for that matter either. So yes, that's the only time really when a game is such a crazy price that sometimes it's worth using other methods to play it. What have I got next from you? I am a collector. Are you a collector or are you a procurer? I'm a collector, but I still find myself repurchasing my favourite titles across the Wii U and Switch, even though I own them on the NES and Super Nintendo. Whenever a virtual console is released, Nintendo has stated they want to do a subscription-based model where they would rent games for a monthly fee, and wanted to ask your thoughts on that as well. Well, I suppose it's different strokes for different folks at the end of the day. Regarding that one, but personally I certainly would not be interested in a subscription. I've never even paid to use the bloody PlayStation 3 or Xbox Live Online. I will not pay for gaming subscription purchases. The most I would do in terms of digital content is the rare digital download every now and again. For example, I really wanted to play Sonic Mania, so I downloaded that onto my Switch, but asking me to pay for subscriptions for gaming, no. That's never going to happen. So yes, thank you for your questions, Brad. Next question from Ryan Harris. Would you ever dig up a corpse of a relative if they were buried with a rare game you could no longer get? If yes, what would you recommend for getting off the dead body smell? That's a very good question, Ryan. What have I got to say about that? I'd say I wouldn't go for a game if it was just rare. Like, there's no way I'm digging up one of my dead relatives to get something like Beethoven for the Super Nintendo, as I was moaning about earlier. And again, it would have to be both rare and sought after at the same time. Like something like Trip World, for example, on the Game Boy. That's a bloody good game, and it's bloody rare at the same time. So I wouldn't dig anyone up if I was after a sought after game or after a rare game. But if it was both rare and sought after, then yes, I would dig up a dead body. In regards to getting rid of the smell, I would probably recommend Lynx deodorant. That seems to mask foul odours, which is also known as Axe deodorant in North America, which is interesting. Still, regional differences apply outside of gaming. So maybe they will end region locking in terms of deodorants one day too, which would be nice. Question from the Bit Vault. Thanks for the reminder. What was the most surprising or interesting game you discovered in your travels that you'd never heard of before leaving home? Well, actually, I suppose most of you would probably have heard of it by now. I would say Yokai Watch. I purchased the first game literally just as I started my travels in Greece, and I played it throughout the duration of that part of my trip. Then a few months later, when I arrived in the United States, they actually released Yokai Watch 2 over there. So I bought that game too and played through that. Fantastic JRPGs, very, very underrated, which I would gather not many people my age would have bothered to play in, because the presentation is very, very childish. Like, it is clearly aimed at a younger audience, but don't let that put you off. The gameplay is absolutely fantastic. I put it somewhere between the Pokemon series and Yokai Watch, sorry, I've repeated myself, Ni no Kuni on the PlayStation 3. It's again one of those stupid RPG games where you catch little monsters, but Yokai Watch is a very depthy one indeed. A charming little game, actually. Next question from Slope's Game Room, obviously that bloke Daniel Ibbotson who does those historical perspective videos. Taking nostalgia out of the picture, with the indie game explosion that's been getting bigger and bigger each year, do you think that new age retro inspired games as a whole are becoming better than the games they are trying to copy? Yeah, that's my bloody catchphrase, Mr. Ibbotson, so I would avoid typing that ever again, because otherwise I will send a cease and desist order to your channel, okay? So don't say yeah, that's my catchphrase. So anyway, let's go back to the beginning. So, with regards to indie games becoming better than modern games, indie games getting better than the retro games, it's hard to say. They're very, very different, aren't they? Like, let's look at some old NES games like Mega Man, Castlevania. Absolutely ridiculously difficult, like really intense games. If you look at a lot of the big name indie games, which are also 8-bit retro inspired, like Shovel Knight for example, there's a bloody million shortcuts in order to complete the game with relative ease. I know you've got the options for difficulty to be pumped up and all stuff like that, but due to having the feature of easier difficulty, I find the gaming experience very, very different playing these modern retro inspired games to actual retro games. So yes, they feel like a completely different flavour, so I wouldn't say either are better than the other, because they're just too different. They're both products of their own times, although I do constantly say on this channel the best games like Fine Wines and get better with age. At the time, at this moment in time, I can confirm games like Mega Man, Castlevania, they are great games. Will we be able to say that about Shovel Knight in 20 years time? Probably yes, but we will have to wait until then to judge it properly. So yes, thank you for your question, Dan. Next question and final question from Edward O'Reilly. Currently playing through the Advance Wars series. That's great, isn't it? I have completed all the Game Boy Advance ones and I want a Dual Strike DS game and haven't beaten it as well. Just playing the extra CPU maps at the moment. I have also completed the Dark Conflict DS game. Can you recommend a similar turn-based strategy game on either the Advance or the DS? Well, yes, Edward. Very, very easily, in fact. Finish with this now so I can put it down. A really obvious answer is Fire Emblem. Like, Fire Emblem and bloody Advance Wars are almost the same game anyway. Like, their mechanics are very, very, very similar. And personally, I always thought Advance Wars had the edge over the Fire Emblem series. Like, all the time the Advance Wars series was running, I always felt the Advance Wars games were superior to whatever Fire Emblem presented. The whole thing always gets a little bit cringy and anime and waifu, doesn't it? But put all that aside, and you've got a good game underneath all of that. The newer Fire Emblem games, because obviously they've stopped making Advance Wars altogether, have been great. So if you play the newest games in the series, which was, what were they called? Fire Emblem Fates, I believe. Fates, I think that was what they were called. There was 3 of them. Birthrights, Revelations, and I can't remember the third one, but anyway, all 3 of them absolutely fantastic, better than any Advance Wars game. That's how good they are. They've literally just kept refining the same formula and made it better and better. And those Fire Emblem games are amazing, absolutely amazing. And I'm currently playing the newest release on the 3DS 2, and however the name slips me, because yes, all the names are they're all pretty similar sounding, aren't they? But yes, I'm playing the newest Fire Emblem game, which also what I believe is also a re-release of an older game in the series, which I believe was possibly on the Super Nintendo, but someone may be able to correct me in the comment section. Anyway, patrons, Viewers, everybody on the planet who watches my videos, thank you for continuing to support the growth of this little channel. Yeah, send me $1. Cheerio!